Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC Fight Night 54, MacDonald versus Saffiedine, which happens on October 4th on Fox Sports 1. Also, they have prelims on Fox Sports 2 and Fight Pass. Overall, the main card's actually not too bad. I do like the main event and co-main event due to divisional relevance. Decent prospects on the card. Cedeno. I think Cedeno's not too bad. Laprise actually isn't that bad. He looks like he's seeing more of a solid mid-tier, tough-out type guy, though. Unless Theodorou could actually turn out to be pretty good. Pretty high on Raphael. He's fighting Mitch Gagnon, who's a guy who's actually pretty good himself. Holohan from SBG Ireland. Those guys have been doing really well. Cruickshank versus Njokuani looks like fun. The rest of the card looks kind of There's a couple like lower level fighters here. Saggo's not too bad. Tumanov versus Dwyer should actually be kind of fun. And Pedro Munoz actually is a very high level prospect himself. So there's actually some pretty high level prospects on this card. I see two fights that look like stand-up wars, for sure. Main event's cool. Co-main event I like too. So yeah, let's get started. For the main event, we have Rory MacDonald versus Tarec Saffiedine. Saffiedine has a 15-3 record, 1 win by KO, 5 wins by sub. He's 28 years old, on a 5-fight win streak, training at a Team Quest. He's the last Strikeforce welterweight champion. He's notable for his technical stand-up. He's very good defensively. He throws offense very precisely and in a very technical way. Notably, he has really good leg kicks. He showed that against Nate Marquardt and Hungyu Lim. He actually showed a good overhand right and a little more sense of urgency to knock out Lim with the overhand right a couple times during the fight. His Tarec Saffiedine's takedown defense is very strong. He has some of the best takedown defense I've seen. Actually, I remember when he fought Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley managed to take him down like once, I think, and then he just pushed him up against the cage, tried to get takedowns on Saffiedine, and Saffiedine just wouldn't let him. And Saffiedine actually has an underrated offensive takedown game as well. He managed to take down Hungyu Lim, took down Tyler Stinson. So he'll go to his offensive takedown game if need be. Rory MacDonald, 17-2 record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub, 25 years old on a 2-fight win streak. Most recently beating Tyron Woodley. Trains out of TriStar. He is big for 170. He has some strong stand-up, particularly good jab. He does have good kicks as well. He has a really good body kick, but just good kicks in general. His wrestling's actually pretty good, both offensively and defensively. He has good sprawl in the defense. His ground and pound is fight-ending. He's finished Mike Pyle, Che Mills at ground and pound. He's a good scrambler. I mean, Damon Maia managed to take him down. I remember when Damon Maia tried to take him down like a third time. He scrambled back to his feet. One problem with Rory MacDonald, and showed in the Woodley fight, and it could actually play a factor in this fight, he is susceptible to leg kicks. He does have answers to getting leg kicked that'll make his opponent think twice about throwing the leg kick, like he did against Woodley, but he will take a couple leg kicks regardless. And that's really, this is an interesting fight just because they're both very technically sound. Rory should be the bigger fighter. Saffiedine's a really defensively sound fighter. MacDonald, besides when he fought like Robbie Lawler, has shown to be relatively hard to hit though. And Robbie Lawler's just that damn good at striking and counter-striking. Susceptibility to leg kicks gives me pause for worry for MacDonald. I forgot, there was actually I read a breakdown of how Woodley was throwing leg kicks and then Rory MacDonald was doing something to counter it. I mean, he wasn't checking them, but he was like throwing some sort of offense that made Woodley think twice about throwing leg kicks. Man, I can't help but see this as a tough, probably a tentative fight too, to be perfectly honest with you. Something more of a game of inches more than anything else, to be honest with you. Jeez, it's tough to say, because even MacDonald, if he tries to go for wrestling, Tarec Saffiedine does have good takedown defense. Size goes to MacDonald. Diversity, I'd probably give it to MacDonald. Sometimes Saffiedine only has like, sometimes he can show only a few, like in his fights, he only has a few weapons sometimes. Strong weapons and refined weapons, but still limited nonetheless. Makes it really hard for me to say who's going to win. I can't really say how, like, what's the huge advantage from one guy over the other. I am going to go with Rory MacDonald. I will say size is one thing, and diversity is probably what I'm going to give MacDonald here. He's good at pressuring his opponents too. Saffiedine isn't always the best at pressuring his opponents, so I think that could work against MacDonald or work against Saffiedine as well. So that's that's actually good reason to go to MacDonald. Pressure, being the bigger fighter, and a little more diversity in his offense. MacDonald for the win there. Once again, leg kicks though. Saffiedine can definitely do some damage in that department. Next fight after that, Raphael Assuncao fights Bryan Caraway. Assuncao has a 22-4 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 10 wins by sub. He's 32 years old, on a 6-fight win streak. He's a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He has good stand-up. His wrestling's actually not too bad, and he's a good scrambler as well. He also has that notable win over TJ Dillashaw. I don't necessarily agree with that win. It was close enough that Assuncao could get the nod. Bryan Caraway, 19-6 record, 1 win by TKO, 17 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission. He's 30 years old, on a 2-fight win streak. Trains out the Team Alpha Male. He has some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. He's a good wrestler. He's very good at completing takedowns when he has an opponent against the cage. He also has really good back control. When he takes a guy down, he likes to take the back. His stand-up's just average, but he has a really good chin. I mean, if he has a liability, it's in the stand-up, but he's actually gotten away with certain things by having or managed to get away with the liability in stand-up by having a good chin. Showed in the Mitch Gagnon fight. Gagnon was beating Caraway up. Then Caraway managed to, weather the storm, submitted Gagnon, for example. So I gotta give this a Assuncao here. He's better in stand-up. I was actually on a Bloody Elbow the other day, and I remember I was talking to one of their striking specialists about Assuncao stand-up. I was actually very surprised about how technical Assuncao can be with his stand-up. I remember he scrambled really well with TJ Dillashaw. I'd say that Caraway's the better wrestler. He might be able to get the fight to the ground. I don't know if he can necessarily keep the fight on the ground against a guy like Assuncao, though. Overall, I think Assuncao is definitely good enough on the ground to hang and scramble with Caraway, and it should be the better striker. Might not be the better wrestler, though, but he's actually not a bad wrestler himself. He's not like easy to take down or anything like that. So I go with Raphael Assuncao for the win there. Next one is that Yosdenis Cedeno fights Laprise. Laprise, 8-0, undefeated record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub, 20 years old. Solid stand-up, just very much nothing like crazy or flashy about him, just solid. Solid striking, good technical. I remember in Ultimate Fighter Nations, he knocked out Cajun Johnson. Solid striker, And then he actually has some decent takedown defense as well. Who did he fight? He fought Olivier Aubin-Mercier. Beat him up on feet, managed to avoid the takedown. So that was pretty good. So I always found Chad Laprise to be just a solid fighter, you know. I think he's cutting down to 155 for this fight. He's fighting Yosdenis Cedeno, who's coming off a win over Jared Sanders. Cedeno has a 10-3 record, 7 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins by decision. He's 29 years old. When he came into the UFC Fight Ernest Chavez and got taken down and side-mounted pretty much at will. He does train with the Black Zillions. One thing, if Laprise is more of just your technical, you know, guy with good technique, not flashy, Cedeno is a more flashy type of fighter. More flashy striker. Go for spinning strikes, for example. Really explosive type of strikes. When he fought Jared Sanders, I think the first strike he threw was like a leg kick that like broke his leg pretty much. I mean, it's just really fast, really explosive. He's more of an explosive movement type of striker. So it's a very interesting style matchup in that sense. I'm gonna go with a flash of Cedeno here. Even though I think Laprise is probably the more technically sound striker, probably has more composure and whatnot, I'll go with the flashiness of Cedeno for the win here. Next fight, that Bruno Santos fights Elias Theodorou. Bruno Santos, 14-1 record, 1 win by TKO, 1 win by sub. 27 years old. He is not a finisher. He is a known non-finisher. You can watch his last fight against Chris Camozzi. I mean, seriously, the guy is just the most notorious grinder like I've ever seen. I mean, the guy is just like the epitome of like a lay and pray. He's a good wrestler with good top control. He's not even like a good like guard passer, a good ground and pound guy. He's just a guy that like clinches you against the cage, forces a takedown, and just grinds away on top control. The problem is he's fighting Elias Theodorou, 9-0 undefeated record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub. He's also a guy that can fight that style too. He actually is a good wrestler. One thing I liked in his last fight against Sheldon Westcott, showed really good ground and pound in that fight and was actually passing guard. Stand-up looks to be improving as well. I mean, he can play Bruno Santos' game, and I just doubt, and I think Theodorou might be better at Bruno Santos' game, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm going to go with Elias Theodorou for the win there. Next fight after that, Rob Font fights Mitch Gagnon. Funny story of Rob Font, and I'm pretty high on the guy, and it was kind of funny because, like, I remember I was watching a couple of his fights before he fought George Roop, you know, outside the UFC, and I'm like, man, this guy's stand-up's pretty good. I really like what I see from the guy. He has good overhand right, solid stand-up, heavy-handed, you know. And then I'm like, but I'm going to pick George Roop. You know, he has more experience in the UFC. It's a tough out for a guy who's first fighting the UFC. Rob Font throws the overhand right, knocks out George Roop, and I'm like, man, I should have picked Rob Font. I was pretty high on the guy, you know, from what I've seen, and he delivered. So Rob Font, 11-1 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub, 27 years old, 10 fight win streak, trains out of Team Sit Your Tongue, Mark Delagratti's gym. There's another fighter, Takeshi something or another, or Tateki something or another, fights out of Sit Your Tongue. He fights in the UFC. He does have some good stand-up and some really heavy hands. I like his overhand right especially. Mitch Gagnon, actually a really tough fighter too. 11-2 record, 10 wins by submission, 1 win by decision, 29 years old, 3 fight win streak. He's always pushing forward. Stand-up's average, but he's got some really heavy hands. I remember when he dropped Wallout Watson I think he dropped Dustin Kimura as well and then choked them out afterwards. One of the problems though, with him though, is he has some really weak cardio. He's a guy that you might want to just weather the early storm in the first round, and he might be able to beat him in the next 2 rounds. His one decision wins over Tim Gorman too. You know, he's just like an alright fighter, to be perfectly honest with you. Nonetheless, Mitch Gagnon's pretty good. I think he's probably better than Font on the ground. Heavy-handed guy. I think Rob Font's a more technical striker. He's not terrible on the ground or anything like that. Takedown defense is okay. I'm going to go with Rob Font to win that one. And finally, Patrick Holohan fights Chris Kelades. Kelades, 7-1 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He's 33 years old, trains out of Fit Plus with the likes of TJ Grant. It is his first fight in the UFC, and he's going to take this fight on a week's notice. Patrick Holohan, 10-0, undefeated record with 1 draw. 1 win by KO, 8 wins by sub. He's 26 years old on a 5-fight win streak. So before that win streak, he had the draw. He trains out of SBG Ireland with the likes of Cathal Pendred, Aisling Daly, and of course Conor McGregor. And Gunnar Nelson trains there as well, if I'm not mistaken. He's got some good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. He's really good off his back. And as shown in his last fight, he beat Josh Sampo. Sampo was actually favored to win. And Holohan actually showed some improved striking in that fight as well. I gotta go with Patrick Holohan here. He's not taking the fight on short notice. He's got some solid ground skills, and he's improving in the stand-up. Get on to Fox Sports 2 prelims. Darren Cruickshank fights Anthony Njokuani. Njokuani, 16-8 record with 1 no contest, 9 wins by KO or TKO, 7 wins by decision. He also has 3 losses by submission. He's 34 years old. He's trading wins and losses right now. I think he's coming off a loss. I don't know if he's going to get the win here, though, to keep that streak. He is a good kickboxer. Really solid kicks, especially good body kicks in particular. Pretty heavy-handed as well. Knocked out Roger Boring. I remember that. His takedown defense is improving. Guys try and take him down a lot. He does eventually get taken down, though. That's a problem. He's getting better at getting back to his feet when he's taken down. But, I mean, obviously his weakness is still on the ground. Darren Cruickshank, 15-5 record, 9 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission. He's 29 years old. Has that Taekwondo style stand-up. Really strong kicks, like head kicks, leg, body kicks. Really unorthodox too. Also spinning kicks, really cool looking. Very flashy fighter. His takedown defense is actually solid. He has been taken down before by the likes of Adriano Martins and Jorge Masvidal. His grappling's average. One problem against like Masvidal, for example, is he seemed a little too content off his back. I don't know if it's just because Masvidal just has that good of top control. Could have been the case. But you know, like, and the fact that he lost to Adriano Martins, he still has something of a liability on the ground. Good thing with Cruickshank, though, I mean, he dropped Masvidal hard in that first round. He's a pretty heavy-handed guy. Both of them are pretty dynamic strikers. I'd say Cruickshank even a little more so. One thing that Cruickshank gets a liability in his stand-up is when he gets pressured. That's what happened against Masvidal, even against Adriano Martins. And actually, John McDessie just beat him up with a jab. When Cruickshank's backing up and can't use his kicks is when his stand-up isn't as strong as it could be. I don't think there'll be a problem in this fight, though. I can't really say. Njokuani is a guy that also needs space for his own striking as well. So I don't think that's going to be the case of Cruickshank getting pressured. I think we'll actually see some cool kicks in this fight. I'm going to go with Cruickshank for the win. You know, just I want to say that Njokuani has shown to be a bit chinny sometimes. Obviously, when he got knocked out by what's his name, Jutsko. I've seen him get wobbled a couple times and dropped. So yeah, Daron Cruickshank for the win there. Next fight after that, Jingliang the Leech Lee fights Nordine Taleb. So it's actually hard for me to call just because I have a really hard time trusting Chinese fighters. Their training is still really behind like the US, Brazil, and a lot of other places. Nordine Taleb though has been something of a just like an okay fighter. He keeps trying out for the Ultimate Fighter, doesn't make it, but still gets signed to the UFC. So Jingliang Lee, 9-2 record, 1 win by TKO, 5 wins by sub, 26 years old, 3 fight win streak. He's got some good ground skills actually. He fought David Machad, if I'm not mistaken, and I think he beat him up. They were scrambling a lot, but I remember Machad got tired, and Lee beat him pretty much on the ground. His stand was just average though. Nordine Taleb, 9-2 record, 5 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by decision. He's 33 years old. Does train out of the TriStar. He does have some solid stand-up skills. His ground is still kind of he actually has some good knees in the clinch. But yeah, it's just hard for me to say. I think Nordine Taleb is going to be better in the stand-up. Should be able to avoid the takedowns from Lee. Might even be the bigger fighter here. I think this is at 170. So I'm going to go with Nordine Taleb to win that one. Next fight after that, Olivier Aubin-Mercier fights Jake the Librarian Lindsey. I'm going to actually tell you right now that this is actually one of the hardest ones to pick. Because they're both very low level fighters with limited experience and still huge liabilities in their game. Jake Lindsey, 9-1 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He actually has some good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. His striking from the clinch isn't too bad. His stand-up overall is weak. And stand-up defense is just terrible. When he fought John Tuck in his last fight, I mean, he lost. First off, the way he lost were heel strikes to the body from when his back was taken. And he couldn't defend an overhand right to save his life. I mean, seriously, it was just pretty bad. His stand-up defense was just terrible. The problem is with Olivier Aubin-Mercier, 4-1 record, all 4 wins by first round rear naked choke. He's 25 years old. He has some good takedown ability. I think he has some judo, actually. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are good. His stand-up's weak, too. He fought Chad Laprise. Can't really do much against him. You know, his stand-up's just not that good. His ability to get the fight to ground, it's not the greatest. When he won a lot of fights in the Ultimate Fighter, it was mainly takedowns and top control. A lot of control-based, you know, like, and I was on the Ultimate Fighter. But, like I said, both these guys just have so many limitations. I can't, and liabilities, especially in their stand-up. You know, and also just an experience. I'll go with the more experienced guy, Jake Lindsey. Tough for me to call, though. I don't know who's going to win that fight. Maybe Aubin-Mercier just takes the fight to the ground and gets a rear naked choke. I don't know. I think Lindsey's actually shown some decent grappling. I've seen the guy fight and like I think he fought the Score in the Score fight series, if I'm not mistaken, and some other leagues, and he's always like kind of decent, like in the regional scene. Looked terrible against John Tuck though. Next fight I thought, Paul Felder fights Jason Saggo. Felder has an 8-0 undefeated record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by decision. He's 29 years old. It is his first fight in the UFC. From what I read, I think he only has 2 years of pro MMA experience or something like that. He's only been fighting for like 2 years or something like that. or started training in 2 years too. His stand-up's good. He has good kicks as well. Saggo, 10-1 record, 2 wins by TKO, 8 wins by sub, 28 years old, 5-fight win streak. The guy is a finisher. His Muay Thai is actually not too bad. Throws a lot of single strikes though. I actually rewatched this fight against Josh Shockley. I really actually liked what I saw from Jason Saggo. Now, his striking not so much. He just throws some single kicks here and there. But I liked his wrestling. His ability to take the fight to the ground was really good. His guard passing was actually really good. Showed some good ground and pound as well. There's some overall good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. I'm going to go Jason Saggo in this fight. I think he'll be able to take the fight to the ground and use his superior grappling to win that. Get on to Fight Pass prelims. Matt Dwyer fights Albert Einstein Tumanov. Tumanov has a 13-2 record, 9 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by decision. He's only 22 years old. Interesting to note, he's 5'11". Matt Dwyer is listed as tall as like 6'4". Tumanov has some good stand-up, a particularly good left hook, strong ground and pound. His takedown defense isn't the best though. Matt Dwyer, 7-1 record with all 7 wins by KO or TKO. He does have 1 loss by KO. He's 24 years old. Like I said, he's pretty tall, like 6'4", past 6 foot. He's on the 5-fight win streak. It is his first fight in the UFC. He's never been to decision. He is a finisher. I watched this fight against DeMarcus Johnson. He's something of a brawler, though. His knees from the clinch are really strong, but when he punches, I mean, he like, kind of loads up. I mean, he doesn't actually have proper punching technique. He actually pulls back and then like punches. Stand-up defense was like terrible. One thing that was really interesting when I saw his fight against DeMarcus Johnson is how susceptible he was to a left hook, and actually left hook right cross. DeMarcus Johnson was actually hitting him a lot with that. And Tumanov is actually really good with that left hook right cross combo. I was watching some Tumanov fights actually. I watched his Eldemar Alcantara fight and his fight against Anthony Lapsley. So he fought Eldemar and lost a split decision. One thing that happens is he kind of overextends himself when he strikes. He'll do a leaping left hook, get taken down, get control on top. He actually reversed Eldemar, which is kind of cool. In the first round, when he reversed him, or dropped him, he showed some really good ground and pound there. So that's the thing. That's why I didn't really like his takedown defense, but I don't know if he has to worry about that with Dwyer here, just because like he'll overextend himself. The cool thing is when he fought Lapsley in his next fight, he showed a little more patience, a lot better distance, because Lapsley was just looking to take him down. And Tumanov was fighting a lot smarter fight. She still showed off the left hook. It's a lot more economic. Had a better game plan. With throw a combination, get out. So he kind of learned from that fight, which is a good sign for a young fighter. And like I said, with Dwyer, man, that guy's defense is terrible. I mean, his technique's actually not that great too. He's just kind of a brawler, heavy-handed, but just kind of a brawler. But so is Tumanov's really heavy-handed too. Got the really good left hook. I'll go with Albert Einstein Tumanov to win this one. I think he's better technically in the stand-up, especially with his boxing. I found Matt Dwyer not to have the best inside boxing game, and that's where he got exposed the most from DeMarcus Johnson. Whereas Tumanov, really good inside boxing game. Good left hook, right cross combo, for example. But the height difference does give me some cause for worry here. I'll go with Tumanov for the win there. And finally, Jared Sanders fights Pedro Munoz. Jared Sanders, he fought Yosdenis Cedeno at 155. I believe he's cutting down to 135 for this fight. He has a 14-2 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub, 33 years old. I don't know if it's his first cut to 135 or not, but yeah, I'm not too sure. But he has a good wrestler. He actually has some good wrestling accolades. And his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are solid. He's fighting Pedro Munoz though. 11-1 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub. He's 28 years old. Trains out of Black House and Kings MMA. He's got some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Good leg locks, good front chokes as well. And as shown in his last fight against Matt Hobart, his stand-up is improving. I want to say he trains under Cordero. A lot of guys like Verdun, Dos Anjos have really improved under King's MMA and under Raphael Cordero. Gotta go with Pedro Munoz to win this one. I think he's going to have the better stand-up. And even if the fight hits the ground, Munoz's ground skills are really good. Okay, to recap the main card, I have Rory MacDonald beating Tarec Saffiedine, Raphael Assuncao over Bryan Caraway, Yosdenis Cedeno over Chad Laprise, Elias Theodorou over Bruno Santos, Rob Font beating Mitch Gagnon, and Patrick Holohan over Chris Kelades. On the Fox Sports 2 prelims, I have Darren Cruickshank over Anthony Njokuani, Nordine Taleb over Jingliang, Jake Lindsey over Olivier Aubin-Mercier, and Jason Saggo over Paul Felder. Fight Pass prelims, I have Albert Tumanov beating Matt Dwyer, and Pedro Munoz over Jared Sanders. So that's it for my predictions for UFC Fight Night 54, MacDonald versus Saffiedine. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for You. Thank you guys very much.